Welcome to the second part of my post-processing workflow tutorial. If you haven't seen the first part, make sure to watch it before continuing with this one. So the first part, I showed you all the preparations, all the steps I do to prepare a photo for the creative part of the image processing, and I now show you the workflow for this. Also, again, a reminder, this tutorial will focus on the workflow, so it will not go into the details of all the processing steps I'm doing. For this, I have several tutorials on my homepage. For example, this panorama photo stitching and a creative workflow tutorial, and also the start to finish tutorial about my landscape processing. And those are more than 2.5 hours long and contain every detail. So the workflow is basically the same as I show here, but yeah, in those tutorials I should also show you all the techniques I use. Okay, so yeah, let's directly head over to the photo now. So this is the photo I ended up after the preparation steps, and it's a perfect starting point for more creative processing. And the first step I'll now do before continuing is I create my tonal helpers, and I have a little action for this. If you want to know how to create those, I use them in all of my exposure blending tutorials, and I also show how to create them. So with those helpers, I can see if certain areas of the image get too dark or too bright. And yeah, as you can currently see, it's evenly exposed. I did a good job with the blending, and I just have a few white and black areas. So the first step in my creative workflow is usually to bring a little bit more punch to the image, because raw photos often contain less contrast, less colors, and especially after doing exposure blending, this can even be a little less contrast. So I like to use VIVEZA for this. So I could start using curves and saturation tools and whatever in Photoshop, but VIVEZA of the Nick tools is still free, and I also have a link to it on my homepage in the tutorial section, so I'll link this below where you can find the download. And yeah, this tool is just a shortcut for giving the image more punch. So what I usually do, add a bit of contrast, a bit of structure. I can also change the warmth of the image if I like to, but I think this is quite spot on here. I can bring up the shadow detail a bit, so I'm not losing too much detail when I'm adding contrast. And sometimes also I make it a little darker and counter this by bringing up the shadows. So we can see the before and after here. So overall, with a few simple steps, the image gets much more punch. And what I also have to do now, because I added contrast and darkened the image a bit, I bring up this helper and see I have now a lot of clipping, and the easy way to fix it is double clicking here and just moving up the underlying layer, so the blend if sliders. Holding down Alt, I can split this and yeah, just fine tune it a bit, so I don't lose too much of the detail there. And press OK, can hide the gradient map and see the before and after, so quite a good start now. So now I have a little more punch in the image already, but we'll further work on this, and in the next step, which is step number 2 in this creative workflow, and in total is step number 6, I'll be adding more contrast, working on the brightness. So I'm doing global and also selective contrast, trying to guide the viewer through the image. I'm darkening certain parts, brightening certain parts, also doing dodge and burn. So the tools I'll be using now is mostly curves, and then also dodge and burn, for which I also have a separate tutorial. So I'll now work on this image, and then the next step I'll show you the result of this creative contrast work I'm doing, and then we'll head over to the next step. So the contrast work's now finished, and let's show you the before and after. So I have a much stronger focus on the inside here, on this area, and the outer parts are darker, so I'm guiding the viewer into the frame, or at least that's what I'm trying. So the next step after working on contrast is now working on color. So both adjusting saturation, evening out colors, balancing colors, working on color contrast. And I'm doing this after changing the contrast in the image, because the contrast work normally changes the colors or the perception of colors. For example, if you darken the image, the colors appear more saturated, and also there might be some color shifts imposed by changing the contrasts, and that's why the color work usually comes after the contrast work. And yeah, I'll be using mostly down here the selective color and also the hue saturation, and from time to time also photo filter for certain areas. All this process is selective, so I'll be using again Lumensia to select certain areas. For example, if I want to change the colors in the bright tones, I get a lights mask. For the dark tones, I usually try to bring down the saturation a bit, so I get a darks mask. And also the vibrance and saturation masks are very helpful. But yeah, the details about this, as I said, are in my more detailed start to finish tutorials on my homepage. Here I'll now show you what's the workflow. So next step now, color adjustments, and I now perform those and show you again, as with the contrast, the before and after. So the color work didn't change too much because I already was quite satisfied with the image. If you look at the before and after, you see it's gotten slightly cooler, and I also cleaned up some color fringes and some color shifts on the brighter parts. But otherwise this image was already quite good to begin with, but there are occasions where I do a lot more to the colors, so you'll notice much more of a change. But in general, it's more like reducing saturation in certain parts than adding to the saturation. So now to the next step, which will be giving this image a final push. And normally what I do now is I'd maybe let this image rest for 1 or 2 days. So just working on something else and coming back to it, or sometimes even enough to get something to eat or leave it for an hour or so, because then you have fresh eyes and you'll instantly see what's missing. And also when I think I'm now arrived at this step where I worked on contrast and color, what I like to do is, as in the beginning, add a little more punch or see if adding more punch will improve the image. And for this I like to use Color EFEX Pro, and this also included in this Nick Tools. And as I said, I have a link below to my homepage where I have then download links, and yeah, you'll find it for free still. And yeah, what I usually do in this Color EFEX is I play around with the Pro contrast here. So setting it to 0, I first see what changing this, this is the color shift, or how it's called, I'm not sure. So sorry, that's the German version. But if you use Pro Contrast, the upper slider, if you bring it to the right, you see it removes the color shift, but I like this warm feel to it. And as I said, I already worked on the color. But it's always good to bring those sliders to the right and see what it does, and then dialing it back down, and yeah, you'll end up at a result which you actually like. And I bring up the contrast, and yeah, this actually adds quite a bit to the image, and also the dynamic contrast. But I usually don't go too far here. I add another Pro contrast, which I'll use selectively. So I bring up the dynamic contrast, and then with this plus here, I just add it to certain parts, to parts of the image where I want the viewer to dwell or to go. So mostly in the inner part of the image, so the before and after. So this is further drawing the viewer in. Also maybe here on the outside. Another filter I like to use, but mostly on landscape photos, is the polarization. which for this image doesn't do too much good. So it increases the saturation of the yellows and the reds, but I won't do too much with it. Then let's see what the brilliance does. So first, see if I cool it down. As I said, I like the warm look of this image. It feels inviting, and yeah, this is what I want to have for this image. So the hotel will use it to basically get bookings for this, for this villa, and this room should look inviting, so I'd rather use a little warmer tone, but also not too warm, so I'll leave this brilliance. So now that I have done those basic adjustments, I'll just press OK and see the before and after, and then decide how much of this effect I'll use. So let's now see. Before it looked already good, now it's a little bit more punch, and I think I like it, and I'll dial down the opacity a bit, so go with something in between. Also check the gradient map here, the helper, and you see again I'm losing a lot of the dark tones, so I do a little bit of the blend if, also on the bright tones. So I'm basically focusing this effect more on the midtones of the image, before and after. Yeah, and I think this is now a result I like. So that was it about step 8, and yeah, the next step will now be the actual sharpening, which we skipped completely in the beginning. If you've seen the last video about the preparation, I told you that I don't do sharpening in the beginning, that I push it to the end of the post-processing workflow. And yeah, this is now the next step. So what is multipass sharpening? In this step now, I try to bring back the sharpness and clarity, which I skipped in the beginning, and I'll do this by first applying some pre-sharpening, and this focuses on the very fine details, so in the pixel range, and then I also work on more of the micro contrast, and by this giving the image a more crisp look. And yeah, I'll skip this part here and just show you the result again, and yeah, we'll then step over to the final step. So here's the before and after of the multipass, and so you can see it. We'll just go into 100% here to this brickwork. So the before, which already contained quite a bit of details, but now with the multipass sharpening it's more crisp, and this now looks very detailed and very good. And we're not at the end. The final and last step now is to prepare this image for the output medium, and this involves resizing it, and also it involves another sharpening step. So for example, if I want to have it on the web, I'll do resizing for web and web sharpening, and if I want to print it, I'll resize it to the print size I want and then sharpen it for print. And that's the final step in my workflow. And as an example, I now show you the web sharpening. And for the web sharpening, I use a plugin by Andreas Resch, and that's a very good sharpening tool. And I have a link to this included on the same page where I have the links to VIVEZA. So it's basically a free script which you install, and you can download it from his homepage. Here's descriptions on how to install it, how to use it, and I quickly show you what it does. So I have this image now, and I just go to scripts, web sharpener, so I don't do resizing. This is all done in the sharpener. And yeah, let's say I want to do 900 by 600 to publish it on Facebook. I leave everything as default, but you could also adjust the sharpening here, but I just leave it as is, press default method, and now this script will do its magic, and the result will be a very crisp file in the right size for the web. And since we applied multipass sharpening before and also have a very detailed image from the 5DSR, I usually reduce this sharpening a bit, so it's usually coming out a bit too sharp, so I can just reduce the opacity of this sharpening group. In this case I'll think I go with like 40. Also there's a saturation compensation, because adding this sharpening usually reduces the perception of the colors a bit, because you have those little contrast edges with the bright fringes. So I can add this a bit, and yeah, that's it. From here I just have to export it. So I go to File, Save for Web, embed the color profile. This is important. I can bring down the quality a bit. Usually if I go with something between 80 and 90, no one will notice. And yeah, then I just save it, and this is then ready to be posted on my homepage, on Facebook, or yeah, wherever on the web I want to show it. So this is now the end of my 10-step post-processing workflow. And yeah, I hope it was interesting for you, even though I skipped some of the details, so some of the real processing. But yeah, you have to understand, I also want to sell a tutorial from time to time. And yeah, as I said, my detailed tutorials on my homepage, they really include everything, and also some tricks which I haven't shown on my YouTube tutorials yet. So if you're really interested, I think you get a good value for the money. So you can check those out. And yeah, for now, I'll leave you with that. Hope you can use some of this in your workflow. And if you want, also comment if you do something differently, if you have suggestions, what I could improve, what I'm missing in my workflow. I'm always interested to hear how you guys doing it. And I'd like to have always a little bit of an exchange. So I always read the comments and I try to answer them. So yeah, next time I think it's another vlog again. I still have a few videos from Vietnam coming, also something from Hong Kong, where we actually were when there was a big typhoon. So a few more videos. And yeah, till then, see you.